in tune enough? Ooh, Shabbat Shalom. I'm in D.
Rabbi,
if you want to join me.
What are you singing?
D walk down.
You do it. I don't walk, I run.
You don't walk? You can just play D the whole time if you want.
Well, it's a Jewish chord.
Rabbi Levy, that's right? If you just play D the whole time, it's fine. Just call it harmony. Shabbat Shalom. 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 Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. Pick whichever part you like better, and we'll do it all together. Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. Now try the other part, and that'll be it. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It's nice to be back inside. Although I, for the record, want to say I was the least complaining of the heat.
I complained a lot.
The last couple of weeks,
It was
miracle
great.
of miracles,
It was
I
hot.
complained the least about the heat of the clergy team. So that's for the record.
So we should learn here. From this we learn that I have learned from the Master how cold one should be during
One should be
services.
at meat, as long as the meat is safe, that's the temperature we're looking for.
I was hot, and you're all thanking me right now.
There
aren't
you go. So, my friends, we are thrilled to be inside. We're thrilled to have people in our sanctuary again. It's been a very long time, since September, that we've been in this room together, although we have been together for B'nai Mitzvah with small groups. But we are taking the following position regarding the crazy world around us in this time. The first is we begin the book of Numbers. And because we begin the book of Numbers, we are very mindful of the journey that it took the Israelites 38 years to get from Mount Sinai to the Promised Land. They didn't get there overnight. Bamidbar, the wilderness, was about process, and it was about good days and bad days, and kvetchy Jews and not kvetchy Jews. The book is about rebels and leadership, and we have taken the position all along that our job is to lead through, not to, but through. When Miriam gets sick in the book of Numbers, when she gets the scales on her skin, the Israelite community stops. The 603,000 that we recount tonight in our Parsha, in the beginning of Numbers, they don't go anywhere until she's better. So, during the next few weeks and months, either Rabbi Mason-Barkin or I will continue to wear our masks when we're sitting down and not participating, not because we don't follow science, but because we're Jews, until every member of Congregation Beth Israel is able to attend a service and feel comfortable and safe with or without a mask, until everyone like Miriam is ready to move on, then we will move on. So while symbolic in nature now, since we're both vaccinated and more than 2 weeks away from our vaccinations, we will be wearing our masks until everyone doesn't have to, until everyone is prepared not to. And if you want to call that a Jewish statement of principles, I think the book of Numbers is pretty close to the best proof text that we can find. And since I believe in God, and this is the week that the mask mandate was lifted, but also the week that we begin the book of Bamidbar, the wilderness, we're going to continue in this journey of the wilderness together because, as we all know in our hearts of hearts, we can't all move along until we're all present and accounted for, like our ancestors were 3,200 years ago as they began their journey from Sinai to the Promised Land. We will get to the Promised Land, but we will do it together. And we won't shame anyone, and we won't judge anyone, and we're going to be Jews worthy of that moment of Sinai that we celebrate this Sunday night for Shavuot. So that is our plan. There will be more information coming to you via email, and we are opening things up slowly but surely. But it's nice to see your faces. So please don't take it personally if you're not able to see my face for part of the service. And we're so happy to see our Mayan students, both here and online at home, because we get to honor them. They'll be graduating tonight after 12 long, perilous years of religious school and preschool at Congregation Beth Israel. Stacy and Jason will be, and us, will be wishing them Mazel Tov later on tonight. So we're very proud of our Mayan graduates. Let's start with lighting Shabbat candles. I can go down and light if you want, Rabbi, and then you can, lead us in the blessing. Everyone who's at home, please feel free to light your candles now with us, and we'll all pray together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Let's turn to Lachad Dodi, page 138.
Thing is working and in the on position.
Page 20, if you're following along in the online Siddur, we'll be singing verses 1, 5, and 9, standing to face the entrance when we get to the last verse.
Ya la 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 Lachad Dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat mekabel, ya la 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 Lachad Dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la la b'nei Shabbat Shamor v'zachor v'nibur echad ishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad v'shemo tiferet Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabe. Ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 lekrat kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
You may be seated. Let's turn to the next page, 140 or 22, where the words are indented at the bottom of the page. We find Sadiq Katamar.
Sadiq Katamar yifrach keres bavanon yiskei
Shetu
Bevet Adonai Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim mera'ananim or 26. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba ve'amad yivrach yirutei ve'amlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael bagala uv'izman kariv imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam le'omaya yitbarach v'ishtabach v'par v'traman v'itnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha brichu le'olam min kol berchota v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'ama v'imru. Amen. We take some time now to think of those who are in mourning, observing Shiva or Shloshim, the immediate 7 or 30 days of mourning. And if you wish to at this time, please stand so that we may ask for God's blessings upon you during your most acute time of mourning. May God console you among all who are grieving in Zion and Jerusalem. The congregation, all of us at home and here, now stand for Baruch Hu 146 or 28 all together. Baruch Hu et Adonai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. B'chokhmah poteach sha'arim v'bitbuna meshane itim u'machalif et hazmanim u'mesader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Ma'avir yom u'mevi layla u'ma'avdil ben yom u'vein layla. Adonai tzvaot shemo. Echai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Avat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavta. Please, let's join together in the middle of 150 or 32. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. We turn to the next page, 154, or page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ve'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'od al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. I was speaking with a mom this afternoon who was sending her daughter away to Israel this summer, which is amazing and wonderful because we want our kids to have the experience of being in Israel. So it's not just a place that they read about on the news, but a place that they can smell and feel and experience. But this mom was scared, nervous, rightfully so, and I think rightfully so even if we weren't in the middle of everything that we're in the middle of right now. Scary to put your kid on a plane. Scary to send your kid away. And important, too. to give your child those experiences. And I'm thinking too about our graduates who are here with us tonight, both in person and virtually, that parents, it is going to be a lot to send your child to school for the first time, especially in the time that we are living through right now. It's hard, important, necessary, good, but uncomfortable. I am sending my son away to summer camp for the first time, and the ironic thing is I'm going to be like 20 feet away in my own house, right, at camp. And you know what? I'm scared, and I'm nervous, and it's hard and uncomfortable, and it's also important, and it's also good. All of these things come when we experience that next step of freedom. So for each one of us, we are all now, every single one of us, in this moment where new freedoms are in front of us. And they are hard, and they are uncomfortable, and they are scary, and maybe we are ready for them, and maybe we are not, and maybe we're going to take a tiny little step, and maybe it's going to be a big step. Like Rabbi Kahn said, this is Bamidbar. This is the wilderness. This is what it means to be in this place. To take a step, whether it's a big one or a small one or a hard one or an easy one or a good one or an important one or a necessary one. We take that next step towards freedom, each one of us, even when it's hard. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norah tehilo. Turn to the next page. When we have those hard, important, scary, necessary, difficult moments, we ask for protection, and we find it. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'ha'amidenu shomreinu with any voices other than our own in like 15 months. So all of you in the room, and all of you at home too, we need you to really sing this part out loud. Amen. 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 Amen.
162 or 44. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Beini u'bein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. We're now ready for the Amidah, so please stand, all of us together, page 164 or 46. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Adonai sefatai titach Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la la la. Atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el
Hagadol,
Hagibor v'Hanorah El Elyon
Gomer
Chasadim Tovim Vekonei Hakol Vezocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot Umevi Gula Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayei HaKol Atah Rav leHoshia Morid Hatal Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Ishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Bal Gevurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Mimit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'ne'emanat halachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahallelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated.
Let's turn to page 175 or page 57 and read together. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai she'orcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. We take this time for our own private prayers and personal reflections. Our prayer for healing can be found on page 371 or page 253. Tonight we are thinking of so many in our community who are in need of healing, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual healing. We are thinking of those in our world who are in need of healing, those all over. If only we could embrace all of the healing that was necessary, perhaps we might be able to feel less pain. If there's someone you are thinking of tonight and you would like to say their name out loud, you may do so as my eye meets yours. Or, of course, if you are with us virtually, you can put your name in the chat and know that all who can see it will be sending prayerful vibes, feelings towards you and your loved ones who are in need of healing. If you're thinking of someone, you may say their name now. We wish a refuah shlema, a speedy recovery to Chaya Bas Mariam, David Melech ben Sarah Esther, Christine and Kevin Kobo, Phyllis Cohen, Sharon Deitch, Gershon ben Miriam, Tina Gomberg, Sandy Katz, Dan Kobilka, Shirley Oberfield, Masha bat Shoshana, Jadel Plotkin, Rachel Leah bat Baruch, Molly Rubin Stanless, Rachmiel ben Bani Svevida, Cooper Romanelli, Lee Ronald, Sally Rosenblum, Eileen Rubin, Barbara Satz, Roberta Scharf, Michael Schwartz, Kathleen Smith, Michael Peeler Smith, Kathy Sudhalter, Jim Unruh, and Fran White. And find Misha Berach, our prayer for healing, on page 371 or 253. Misha Do you want to do it? We would like to invite Stacy Rosenthal and Jason Bronowitz. And Robin Roeder, if you're here, come on up too. We want to share a little love for our high school graduates. Woohoo!
There you go.
You can use that one.
So it's only fitting that tonight we came back together in this sanctuary after so many months of being away in person, and we bring back our high school seniors who started here, many of them in the Channon preschool, but who came here on this very bima for their kindergarten consecration and their bar or bat mitzvah and confirmation. And now tonight, for the last time, before they graduate from high school, we will be inviting them back on to our Bima to give them a little bit of love. So there are quite a number of high school students who are graduating from our Mayan program. And some are joining us from home, and we have two delightful young men who are with us tonight representing their families and the senior class. So at this time, we'd like to call up Ethan Leventhal and Joey Varco. So if you two will come on up so we can give you some gifts and some blessings. They're a little bit taller than when they first came up on this bima.
Stand right here in the middle.
Okay. So we have a couple of gifts for you, and we call these gifts your roots and your wings. So you are getting two gifts. The first gift that you're going to get, my lovely Vanna Bronowitz here, is the roots. It is a blessing for you to hang in your dorm room to remind you of the rich tradition that you have grown up in here at Congregation Beth Israel, and to keep you really grounded and rooted to all the good stuff, all the good Jewish stuff. We also are going to be sending you your wings, if you will. And your wings are going to be a t-shirt from the Hillel, where you will be attending college. And so there's also an added piece to this, since you will both be at Camp Stein this summer. You get to not only graduate from your high schools, you know, the place you go during the day, but you're going to get to have a graduation at Camp Stein with all of the campers in attendance.
The book of Ecclesiastes teaches us, L'kol zman va'et, l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under the heavens. There is a time to plant, envisioning a future, and there is a time to harvest, seeing one's dreams fulfilled. So the two of you, Ethan and Joey, as you come up to camp, we want you to know, and all of our graduates that are with us online, that we are here with you. The two of you will happen to be up at camp with us. They are both counselors for Camp Stein this summer, so we're so excited to be traveling up to Prescott. But know that we're here. We're here. Stacy and I will be ready to Zoom with you and light Shabbat candles whenever you're ready to join us. We're here to have you come back and visit, come teach in the religious school. Ethan is staying here in town at ASU. And we're so excited to see all that comes with you next. And so I'll read this blessing that is on this scroll. Baruch atah b'voecha, Baruch atah v'tzeitecha. May God bless you on all your goings and your comings, and may you find peace all the days of your lives. And together we say, Amen. Amen.
Amen. We also want to recognize our students who are joining us from at home: Ryan Feinberg, Reagan Grimes, Evan Horowitz, Aiden Perkel, Sam Schimmel, Avery Schultz, and Jacob Ziff.
Don't go anywhere, because we get to,
You gotta get your blessings.
once again, you have to get blessed in front of the Arona Kodesh. Please stand, everyone who's here. And if you're at home and you're a graduate, please stand as well at your seat in your living room or family room or wherever you are. So this is our time together in front of this ark. You have stood in front of this ark to sing the dinosaur song. You have stood in front of this ark, or sat, and there was carpet then. You've stood in front of this ark to receive Torah from your grandparents and your parents at your bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs for those at home. You've stood in front of this ark many, many times to learn of Torah. And before I turn things over to Rabbi Mason-Barkin, I just want to tell you that it has been our collective honor, and those who are behind you, and those who are watching, our honor to watch you grow in your minds and in your spirits. And I do have to say this. If I had a boy camper going to camp this summer, and I knew that the two of you were going to be my kid's counselor, well, let me put it this way.
You're making it happen, right?
Let me put it this way. I would offer $1 million donation to the camp to have the two of you as my kids' counselor, because you guys were the best campers. And the best campers make the best counselors. And it also helps that you both are huge, tremendous mensches. Really, you are the kids I would want my kids to grow up to be. And that counts for many of those who are with us on YouTube as well.
All of them.
And we, almost all of them, yes. But really, for the two of you, since you're here representing them, you're the kind of kids we want our kids to grow up to be like and to emulate and to I am so proud of you guys. And so before we bless you, I'm going to let Rabbi Mason-Barkin get in a couple words too.
It's funny you should say that
Because
my son, who has gotten to know Ethan during Minecraft Mondays, has actually said that he will deny it, but he has actually said that he would like to grow up to be just like Ethan.
Well, that's a good thing.
They don't know you as well, Joey, but they know your sister and they love her. So I'm pretty sure it would. In the summer, you'll get to know them.
Who doesn't love Ali Varco?
Right?
Ali Varco, you get a shout out.
Shout out. Babysitter extraordinaire. Here's what I want to say to you two and the rest of your class. You all were my first confirmation class here at CBI. You had the first part of the semester, and then you looked at me and you're like, have
Good
fun.
luck.
And I came into the room, and you all and your friends would not stop talking.
Never.
I have been a elementary school teacher. I have a master's degree in education. This was not my first go at confirmation. But I thought you were hazing me. I didn't know exactly what was happening because I could not get a word in edgewise. But here's the thing. When we went to Washington, D.C., when we went to the RAC, when your group, you and all of your friends, you took that effervescence, that passion, that connection, did I say passion already? I think I did. Joie de vivre. You took that excitement that you have for everything going on in the world and you channeled it into that moment. And you all spoke with confidence and poise to the representatives of your representatives. And you took everything that made you so hard to manage as a class and you brought it 100%. And my hope for you, my wish for you, my blessing for you is that you never lose that. All of you who are here with us. That you always continue to be the class that makes your teachers nuts. Because that means that you are bringing your whole selves to it. The fact that you would not stop talking meant that you had so much to bring and to share and to think about and to talk about. And that is what is going to take you from these roots. And that's what's going to help you use those wings to fly. So while as a teacher, we might grumble a little, we also know that that's what's going to make you those incredible adults who not only our children want to be, but the ones who are going to change the world. And not just the ones who change the world, but the ones who inspire others to do it too. So thank you for hazing me. Thank you for being in confirmation class. I will always remember. And may you take that all with you and use it to fly. So we offer you these words of blessing.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and may God keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka.
May you always feel God's presence within you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's face always shine upon you and may you always be blessed with peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov, Yehelanu. Tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov, Yehelanu. Please be seated. Oh, we are so proud of our kids, both the confirmands from last week, our graduates from this week. This is also typically our Shabbat where we wish all of the best blessings and love to all of our kids who are going to camp, specifically Camp Stein, of course, but any Jewish summer camp. And so for those who are at home, leaving for camp in the next, 10, 14 days, we wish you all a safe summer, but also we recognize the healing that this summer will provide for you and for your friends as you get back into cabins and away from your crazy parents, including yours truly, and get to be in the best, biggest Jewish fun environment possible, whether it's a Camp Stein or Camp Ramah or anywhere else that you're going, but hopefully Camp Stein. And we give special blessings to Jason Bronowitz, our director of camp, to Jennifer, our assistant director. Stacy and Rosenthal and Rabbi Mason-Barkin are going to be doing 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off throughout the summer, and I will be there to give a hard time to the admin team next week and to the camp staff the week following, and I am kvelling that Jason is now taking charge of camp. No one deserves it more, Jason, than you do. And I am so proud of you and so excited for you and can't wait to share our first Shabbat together at camp with our administrative team next week. Having said all of that, for those of you who would normally come up for a Shabbat, whether you're on the committee or on the board or whatever, next summer, we're going to create a little bubble. It's going to be like the NBA, except for without the very expensive Adidas shoes and logo items. We're going to have a little bubble. And within that bubble, or having said that, I want to remind everyone that our beloved Cantor, he didn't do any of the work, his wife Sarah did, but our beloved Cantor had a baby earlier this week. And, well, he didn't do anything. Sarah had the baby. And they are having their first Shabbat at home tonight. Ronan is in love, apparently. At least that's what Sarah tells me, in love with his baby sister. Everybody is, of course, taking care of Seth because he's the one who's in most need of, assistance. But they're having their first Shabbat as a family together. So we're giving him, because we are Jews, he gets a little paternity leave, and we're very excited for him. And because Rabbi Mason-Barkin and I will be alternating at camp for Shabbats, you will have one of us here for Shabbat, probably in the next 6 weeks or so. Cantor will be back later on in June. And it's all part of our, vision for the High Holy Days when we all get to be together. But seriously, all three of us will be back here on the Bima together, probably not until August. So enjoy. And this summer, for the first time, we will be doing at least one Shabbat service for the whole congregation from Camp Stein via live stream. I'm really excited for that. That was not the sermon. That's the bad news. The sermon is entitled, Here We Go Again, Again. This was an awful week for our brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. But before we get there, I believe so strongly in the existence of God on Shabbatot like this. I believe in the existence of God every day. Because I think if you don't believe in the existence of God, if you don't believe in something, some force, some part of the universe that is the focal point, the energy, or as Maimonides would say, the immovable mover, then you're going to have a hard time living. Because there is a reason and a purpose, as Jason said from Kohelet, to everything. A time to be born and a time to die and a time to plant and uproot what is planted. And in our 24-hour-a-day news cycle, social media meshugana, we lose sight of that lechol zman, that there's a time for everything. And this Shabbat is a time to be angry about what's happening in Israel, a time to feel frustrated that here we go again with Hamas and Islamic Jihad, bombing, firing rockets again and again in the hundreds and thousands on northern Israel, central Israel, southern Israel. To be saddened and heartbroken that babies and children are wetting their beds because of the fear that they're feeling, scared to go to sleep at night because of air raid sirens. All of these feelings that we have, there is a time for peace and a time for war, a time to dance and a time to stop dancing. And as Israel just got out of a pandemic like us and set the real standard, the gold standard for the world on how to get out of the pandemic, this happens. Hamas and Islamic Jihad and the Palestinians who want nothing more than for Israel to not exist and for Jews to be dead are at it again. And what did they expect? For the outcome to be different? That the Jewish people are just going to poof, disappear? That we're going to throw our hands in the air and say, okay, this time we give up? And this is why I believe in God this Shabbat, because we read at the beginning of Bamidbar the following. On the first day of the second month, in the second year, following the exodus from the land of Egypt, Adonai speaks to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, Bamidbar Sinai, and says, take a census of the entire Israelite community by the clans of their ancestral homes, listing the names head by head, record them by their groups from the age of 20 years and up, all of Israel who are able to bear arms, who are able to defend the people of Israel. We're getting a divine wink this week in our Parsha, as if God is giving us a nod and saying, pay attention, because 3,200 years ago, in almost an eerie way, in this week's Parsha, we begin with God's commandment to Moses to muster the first ever Israeli Defense Forces. Men above the age of 20, of course, women are included now in the Israel Defense Forces, but they've been around for a long time. And there's this wonderful commentary from Ramban, not Rambam, but Ramban, that the census that they take of these 603 plus or minus thousand Israelites, although I always say that it was Jewish counting, it was probably more like 400,000, but we like to say it's twice as many as it actually was. But it's pretty specific in the Parsha. Ramban says that the census testifies to the miracle of Israel's survival itself. The survival and the increase of the people of Israel despite the efforts of Pharaoh and Amalek and the rigors of the wilderness journey itself. It's a miracle that they didn't disappear before they even made it to the land of Israel. Ramban points to the enduring lesson of Jewish history, and I argue of Jewish theology, that we have not and will not succumb in spite of devastating losses and persecution. What is wrong with these people? We're not going anywhere. No one can destroy us, and the state of Israel is not just part and parcel of the answer or the solution, if you will, to the plight of the Jewish people. The people of Israel, the land of Israel, and the state of Israel create an impermeable force that started in this week's Parsha. Military, spiritual, physical, and mental, to prevent anyone ever from destroying us. But something also different happened this last week in Israel that we can't miss. And I'm not saying you have to parse it or you have to argue about it, right? There's a time for everything. And for this, maybe there's a time to listen and to think. Even I had a whole different sermon idea for tonight, but you know what? There is a compelling lesson from this last week, as horrific and mortifying as it is. And that lesson came from my favorite Zionist, Rabbi Danny Gordis. And Danny Gordis, let me just put a little context here. When we did Lunch and Learn in the month of May, because it was Yom HaShoah and then Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, I did 3 Lunch and Learn sessions on Israel. I felt like we ignored Israel for a little while there. They only had 4 elections in a year, all kinds of tech coming out, all this great stuff with the pandemic coming out, and we had our own mishagas going on here, by the way. And then all of a sudden there was the 4th elections, and it looked like things were finally shifting. And we talked in our last Lunch and Learn session about how there had been this upheaval over the 4 elections, where it turned into the classic Likud versus Labor and Meretz and everyone else, but also this this system where new parties were emerging that were only about the person who was in charge of the party, who was leading the party. In other words, you were either for Bibi or against Bibi. You were either for Lapid or against Lapid. You were either for, fill in the blank, Naftali Bennett, for example, or you were against. And it seemed like the party system in Israel was being replaced, sort of as it is in the US, by personalities. The personas were bigger than the party. But finally, in the fourth election, it seemed like the people of Israel had elected the anti-Bibi opponents to a greater extent, not by much, to actually finally replace him. And I said, let's see what happens. And if you remember, right after the election, Fatah decided to cancel their elections. Why? Because Hamas was going to win in the West Bank. Hamas was going to become the ruling party. The terrorist organization par excellence in the Middle East, Hamas, along with their friends in Islamic Jihad, were going to win the elections in the West Bank. And so if you're a Palestinian living in the West Bank and you're part of the Fatah government, what do? Cancel the elections. Because it's a democracy, right? Right? And I remember saying in our last session, let's see where that goes. All of these great things were happening in Israel. They were coming out of the pandemic. Until the violence erupted this week, Rabbi Gordis teaches that Israel was on the verge of this non-Netanyahu new era, where you were going to have a religious Zionist, Naftali Bennett, and a total secularist who really is not a secularist because he's a member of a reform congregation, a progressive congregation in Israel, Yair Lapid, coexisting as leaders. And would there be a fifth election? Probably. We're Jews. Israel's going through a phase where we seem to have elections quite frequently. But for the first time, you were going to have a kippah-wearing prime minister of Israel. Remember, Begin only did it certain times. Really, this is going to be the first religious prime minister, and Yair Lapid coexisting. And please remind Congresswoman Tlaib and Congresswoman Omar that the kingmaker party was the Arab Israeli Party in that new government. So tell the apartheid theorists, conspiracy theorists who are in Congress, namely Tlaib and Omar, that it was the Arab Party, the Arab Israeli Party, that was going to be the kingmakers in this situation. The other good news in Israel was the Abraham Accords. Daily nonstop flights. I was saying to Rabbi Mason-Barkin, or someone I was saying on our staff, the next Israel trip, we may have to add an add-on to the UAE for people who want to go to Abu Dhabi, because there are daily nonstop flights, emboldening the relationship between Israel and its Arab neighbors. What great news. Wonderful news. Not just the coexistence, but the economic sharing, the creation of, don't forget they're our first cousins. They're very smart too in science, in technology. These are our first cousins. They're mashpocha. Can you imagine the patents that are coming out of these relationships created by the Abraham Accords? Amazing stuff. Seismic shifts taking place in the ultra-Orthodox world. We learned 2 weeks ago the very hard way in Lag BaOmer that religious fanaticism in Israel has to end. You don't have 100,000 people during a pandemic celebrating Lag BaOmer at the grave of a rabbi from the Bar Kokhba rebellion, trampling each other, unless there is a real, at the core of it, fanaticism to it. And even the ultra-Orthodox within Israel, some, realize that they've had tremendous egg on their face because of that tragedy, but because of this constant back and forth control of the budget without service, of living in Israel but hating Zionists. Not that their days are numbered. They're still a very, very powerful community. But still, if you read Gordis's work from this week, details how that is sort of falling apart. And finally, Israel got through 4 elections without one gun being fired, without one protest resulting in the burning of a building. or the burning of a candidate in effigy, the democracy is flourishing, with Arab-Israeli parties at its center. The crisis in Israel today, as we speak, according to Danny Gordis, is the following. And I think he captures it in one or two paragraphs that I want to share, and then I want to leave it to us to take a time to think. And here's what he shares. The Hamas problem, the bombs, the rockets, that will be resolved. We've played this before. Israel will eventually have to go into Gaza, take out all of the tunnels, take out all of the rockets, take out all of the missiles, and set Hamas back another 3 or 4 years until this eruption happens again. That's the game that they are playing. We don't live there. We don't get a vote. That's what some of us would handle it differently, I'm sure, or vote for candidates who would handle it differently. But that's what's going to happen. All right? Our kids who were on the big trip in 2014, remember? That's how it works. But that's not the issue. He says, Danny Gordis says, on the streets of Israel, we are witness to something that is very, very different. Without any precedent, without any script, without any guarantee of victory. Israeli Arab extremists, incensed by the events from the Temple Mount a little over a week ago, and who are angry about what Hamas is doing, have attacked and shot and lynched Jews in the streets of Israel. In the streets of Israel. And Jewish extremists have attacked, shot, and lynched Arabs. And the police, does this sound familiar? Underfunded and without real leadership for years, were totally unprepared for what happened at the Temple Mount and surrounding area in Jerusalem last week. And throughout the country, vigilantes on both sides are using social media to call people out, to burn, destroy, and attack, and try to kill each other in the streets of Israel. Not a Gaza issue, not a Ramallah Israel, in Israel. And then he goes on to say, Benny Gantz, the Minister of Defense, is calling in reinforcements for the police while resisting Netanyahu's call for bringing in the army. But even if the violence on the streets, which has Jews in some neighborhoods and Muslims in others afraid to leave their houses that they just stayed in for the last 14 months, too frightened to leave their homes, ends right now, the damage is done, regardless of what happens with Hamas in Gaza, he says. Sane Israelis, both Muslim and Jewish. There are Arab Israelis who are Muslim, don't forget, who elected to Knesset members who are going to help codify a new government and a new era of leadership in Israel. And all of them have been shocked into realizing how thin was the veneer of coexistence in cities like Jaffa and Lod and Jerusalem, all of which we visit when we go to Israel. We spend time in Jaffa and we say, oh, the best pita is from the Arab Israeli vendor over there. Let's go there. And the same in Jerusalem, and the same in Lod, where the airport is. But now, the war is taking place in those streets. And, Gordis teaches, we can bomb Gaza all we want, which Israel will of course do, but it doesn't matter. We're going to rip this country to shreds without any help from Gaza. And that's the new existential fear, as he says. Patience, vitriol, prayers, strength, those are all the things we diaspora Jews get to do now. Send our prayers, send our strength, send our love, become vitriolic. But I want to say that I think now is a time for us to really dig in deep and do two very important things. Number one, we must continue to muster a spiritual army, along with the physical army that was called together in this week's Parsha in Bamidbar, a spiritual army to really fight at every step Congress people like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, and call them out on their lies and their deceptions and their enabling of extremism against Jews. The line between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism has been crossed by them. Not only do they hate Israelis, but they hate Jews. And we have to call them out. And we have to do it on college campuses, and we have to do it with our own kids who are 18, 19, 20, 25. Please stop pounding them over the head with the Holocaust. Listen to them, hear them, maybe even give them a little empathy, and then bring them to me, to Jason. Bring them to camp so they can meet our Israeli staff this summer. In other words, we send kids to Israel. Jason and I were just talking about this. Our 6th Big Trip Israel alumnus made Aliyah a couple months ago and entered the Israeli Defense Forces today. This congregation should be really proud of what we've done as a community. 6 kids, alumnus, of a 10-year-old Israel trip that's probably sent 200 or 300 kids to Israel. The 6th one made Aliyah and entered the army today. But we have to fight this spiteful, hateful mischaracterization that Israel, those Jews, are the problem. This is an existential problem of Arabs and Jews who are Israeli both coexisting. And we have to look at that closely. And the second thing is we have to give not just our word-of-mouth support, but our support to Israel through calling, constantly calling. And use AIPAC for this. We're a partner congregation with AIPAC. Use them with our representatives, regardless of their political party, with our federal and local representatives, to thank them every time they do something, say something, and speak the words and enact the acts to support Israel. That's the other side of the coin. Don't just do the vitriol against, like I just did, right, against those who hate Israel. Give gratitude and thanks and post on Facebook the ones who support Israel. Your congregation who is bringing 8 Israelis in a week's time to Camp Stein for the summer. Highlight that. Give life to the people of Israel through showing how much we love Israel, we support Israel. And finally, let us thank God for the Iron Dome system and for our partnership, us as Americans, this gift that we worked on together with Israel, for the Iron Dome, which has saved literally hundreds of lives in the last 6-7 days, if not thousands, by intercepting the thousands of rockets and missiles that have come over. IDF Chief of Staff Aviv Kochavi spoke earlier today to the soldiers of the IDF who are in charge of overseeing the operations and sending the Iron Dome defense missiles to intercept and destroy the missiles coming from Gaza. And he said the following, and I think this is where we'll end it tonight. And then I, again, invite you to think and learn and read about these other existential issues that are now presented to Israel as if the pandemic didn't do enough damage. Hamas made a serious mistake when it decided to fire at the state of Israel, he said. The IDF, which was created in our Parsha this very week, responded with an attack during which we are operating based on prepared plans, and we have a number of other plans ready to go. We are striking with significant force, which will include multiple achievements, which led a significant blow to the weapons production capabilities of Hamas and the Islamic Jihad, which will take them a very long time to rebuild. And if you think about it, it's been since 2014 since it's been this bad, so it does take a long time. At the same time, we're in major defensive operation on air, land, and sea, and with all of these 18, 19, 20-year-olds standing there, this was my favorite part of what the Chief of Staff, Kochavi, said. The most significant of which our work is the defense against rockets and missiles, of course, but we are together defending the citizens of Israel, whether they are Arab, Muslim, or Jewish, or Christian. We are together defending all of them. And these are not easy times for the citizens of Israel. But our job is to give them strength, to see their resilience, to use that resilience and give back to them a sense of purpose and dignity and opportunity, to strengthen them and to show our appreciation for them by protecting them we will do everything in our power to protect them, whether they are Jewish or Muslim or Christian. On this Shabbat, there are so many complex issues we could go into, but I go back to where we started. It is God's mandate that the people of Israel should protect themselves. It is found in this week's Parsha in Bamidbar. But as Rabbi Mason-Barkin said earlier, that wilderness is a long road and a steep climb. And while all of us in our hearts of hearts pray constantly, daily, hourly for peace for Israel, for peace for the Palestinians, for peace for Jews and for Arabs, let's be pragmatic. That within our prayers for peace, that we understand that Israel will, always has and always will, first and foremost protect itself. That we are not going anywhere. And as Rashban said, the enduring lesson of Jewish history is that we as Jews have not succumbed in spite of the devastating losses and the devastating persecution. We will not go anywhere. Shabbat Shalom. All right. Now we get to go from that to announcements.
Announcements. Thank
But,
you, Rabbi
you know.
Kahn. Thank you for those thoughtful and important words.
Thank you.
Lots to think about. I'm going to need to think for a few minutes.
I may yell at myself after services, just so you know. Beat you to the punch.
Tomorrow morning is a big morning because at 9 a.m. there's Torah study. And it will be both on Zoom and in person. You get to play with the new technology this week.
I tested it today. It was big Jewish fun.
Big Jewish fun.
Yeah. You know Jewish men and the toys and everything?
I do.
It was really fun.
I live with one of
yes.
them, yeah. Second announcement about tomorrow morning. Nicole Langbaum becomes bat mitzvah tomorrow morning, and we are so excited for her and for her whole family. She was one of our first students to have to make the hard decision to postpone, and I think she postponed the first and the longest, and so we can just, add a little extra joy for every day that her bat mitzvah was postponed. What's that? She gets a big celebration tomorrow, and we are really excited for her and the whole Langbaum, Siegel, Lukowitz, everyone family. This is not gonna touch that anymore. So mazel tov to Nicole. We are looking for more people to join our meal team. Now, you've been hearing me make this announcement a bunch, so that means that if you keep hearing it and thinking about it, now is the time to let me know. Yes, I can commit to making a meal or two or three or however many or few, or even just ordering delivery for somebody who could use a little extra TLC. Please let me know. And big toda rabbah, big thank you to Carol Cadet, who is doing the massive task of organizing this project. This is a big weekend. On Sunday, we have our annual meeting at 10 a.m. It will be on Zoom. We expect to see everybody there and all your friends. Don't miss that. Then Sunday night, Shavuot begins. At 7 p.m., we will be having a Tikkun La'el Shavuot. This is a 11 congregation project that has been put together by the Phoenix Area Board of Rabbis.
It has been put together by Rabbi Sara Mason-Barkin.
With the support.
I really don't want to gloss over this. Rabbi Sara Mason-Barkin not only was in charge, but you want to talk about a Knesset, 11 rabbis that she told where to be, what to do, and when to do it.
You'd be very proud. I did not ask anybody's opinion. I just told them what to do.
Bingo. But that whole thing this Sunday, Rabbi Mason-Barkin.
So join us at 7 p.m. on Zoom. And it's not just like a 5-hour-long Zoom call. There's going to be choices of sessions and activities and
breakout rooms.
It's going to be great. I'm doing a little cooking thing, which is funny because I don't really cook. Eric Rendelman will be doing a drawing thing. There's going to be serious stuff, lighthearted stuff, all kinds of fun things. So join us. We're going to go until midnight, and at midnight the heavens will open and we'll read the 10 Commandments. It'll be very spiritual. Then the next morning at 9:30 a.m., those of you who would like to join us for Yizkor, it will also be on Zoom with our partners at Temple Solel and Temple Kol Ami. The link will be sent out to you on Sunday. So if you would like to participate in Yizkor, keep an eye out for that email with the link.
Oh, and let us know if you need a yard site candle. We have yard site candles if you need one for Sunday night.
Yes. And then this Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Zoom, we will have our book group. We've been reading The House on Endless Waters. It is a beautiful book. You could probably get through it before Tuesday if you pick it up tonight. So please join us for book group. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. If you're here with us virtually, please introduce yourselves through the chat and, do the whole Jewish geography thing. But most of all, just Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Ooh, they respond.
It's all
We know
good.
you were doing it outside, but we couldn't hear you outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Traffic.
Yeah.
All right, Aleinu and Kaddish. I'm sorry I spoke too long. I actually had a whole nother hour left in me, but that's for another time. We're going to move on now to Aleinu and Kaddish, 586 or 282, and together please stand. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kugoyei aratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, Lifnei melech malchei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu notei shamayim ve'oser haaretz u'moshav ikaro b'shamayim imal u'shchinatu zo begofhei meromim hu Eloheinu ein od emet malkeinu efes zulato Kakatuv betorato v'yadatayom v'ashevota elevavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim imal v'al haaretz mitachat einod v'nema v'yadonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. On this Shabbat, we share our deepest sympathies as we note the passing of the following people who were recently laid to their eternal rest. Lorraine Greenberg, mother of Lisa Luber and Sarah Paczynski. Thelma Gross, wife of the late Jerry Gross, sister of the late and past president of CBI, Maury Amder, and sister-in-law of Doris DeGroot. Bill Seidenberg, father of Andrew Seidenberg and Lisa Barry. Gail Signe Avanki, daughter of Lorraine and Harvey Chimerin. On the Shabbat, we also remember with love and deepest affection those whose yahrzeits occur this week. Frida Malia Abrams, Florence Allen, Joseph Bank, Jacob Becker, Abe Beechin, Carrie Bendelin, Samuel Berkowitz, Jeanette Burt, Jeffrey Blum, Dave Brown, Samuel Charns, B. Davis, Bertrand A. Diamond, Norman Drockler, Herman Flagenheimer, Charlotte Dottie Funk, Dorothy Guayamo, Alexander Gans, Laura Gladstein, Elsa Golden, George Goldson, Bernard Goldstein, Judy Gordon, Bernice Greatman, Joseph Gross, Anna Haberkorn, Matilda Horn, Van Jameson, Edward Kahn, Edna Kalina, Gertrude Karp, Pearl S. Kitai, Stanley Klebe, Giddel Klein, Isidore Klein, Molly Esther Crixton, Hyman Levin, Seal Levine, Milton L. Levy, Anna Lipschultz, Dr. Baruch Marzuk, Dolores Perlman, Brian Price, Isaac Ritchell, Harry Robbins, Max Rosenblum, Howard Salinger, Annette Cald Samplin, Ralph Siegel, Dorothy Kobe Cedar, Robert Siegel, Miss Lester Strong, Lucille Susan, and Marcella Swab. If anyone in the congregation would like to say out loud the name of a loved one you would like us to take into our hearts with our own, or on Facebook or YouTube, if you'd like to type the name of a loved one in the comment section or description section below, please do so at this time. We always remember the 6 million who perished in the Shoah, including the 1.5 million children who have no one to say Kaddish for them. And this week especially, we pray Kaddish for the soldiers and civilians of the state of Israel who have given their lives for our Jewish homeland and who have suffered under this demonic hatred and terrorism. For all of them, may their souls be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. Mourner's Kaddish, for those in mourning, can be found in your Siddurim on page 598 or 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
V'amad ivrach irutei v'amlich machutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael v'agala v'izman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach le'alam le'almei almaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha b'richu. Le'la min kol birchata v'shirata, tushvachata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. V'seh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to those who are grieving, as together we say, Amen.
So while you
Omer
think about
first.
that chord, yeah.
Omer first.
On page 570 or 278, you'll see that we have our counting of the Omer, and where it says at the top that it should be recited before Aleinu, what they mean is like plus or minus a prayer too.
Or if the senior rabbi forgets,
Or the associate rabbi, you just kind of make sure you do it
whenever
before
Rabbi
the end.
Mason-Barkin decides to do it. That's
It's
really
gonna
what
be
it
now.
means. But that was my bad.
No, and mine as
More
well.
mine.
We'll share it.
Okay.
Hineni muchan umzman lekayem mitzvah aseh shel sfirat haomer. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Hayom. Oh, I know how to do this. Hayom shmona v'arba'im yom, shehem shisha shvuot v'shisha yamim la'omer. Today is the 48th day, which is 6 weeks and 6 days.
Oh, it's
of
getting
Omer.
close.
It's really close.
Like a day away.
Yeah. So don't forget to
Amen.
register for the
Yeah.
Tikkun Leil Shavuot.
Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah. 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 Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah. Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah. Because we kept you so long, or I kept you so long, we'll do the short Kiddush and Hamotzi, and then wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen.
Chaim.
L'chaim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome back.
B'tei avon to you. Welcome back.